Hi, YouTube land. Long time no see. It's probably been about 4 or 5 months since I have recorded and put out a video. My intentions when I originally started filming was to capture my weight loss journey. But as you all know, during the weight loss journey, I found that I was pregnant. So I ended up taking a different journey. So now, my last video was kind of me, I guess, talking about how upset I was that I found that I was pregnant, because for anyone who already knows or seen the past video, I already have a 1-year-old. And at the time, I think he just turned 1, because my kids are, I think, 17 months apart. So whenever I found that news out, I was just devastated for all kind of reasons. If you want to know specifically, just look at the old videos that I posted way back when. So my intentions was to kind of film the journey. However, of course, nothing goes as planned my way. So I just kind of just gave up. One video that I did record, but I never put out, just because I didn't have any storage in my phone. And since I didn't have any storage, it was hard for me to edit. So I was maybe about almost 20 weeks pregnant or something like that. And when I first did my confirmation of pregnancy video, let me start real quick. So I'm gonna try to make this video as short as possible because my kids are taking a nap right now, and this is gonna be the only time that I'm able to kind of decently film. I just kind of hurry up and threw this shot together. I'm just in my house in front of the window. I wanted to set up my little tripod with the lighting and all that, but I didn't have a chance to, because I didn't realize it was as complicated as it is. And I was trying to just hurry up and get this recorded so that I can edit it and put it out. So I'm gonna try to make it simple and short as possible. But yeah, so last video, it was my confirmation to pregnancy video. And I was supposed to record my journey, but you know, life happened and I didn't. The last video that I recorded but didn't put out was my 3-hour glucose test. So during my pregnancy, I found out that I had gestational diabetes. I found out that I had it pretty early because during my first pregnancy, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and as soon as they found out I was pregnant this time, they went ahead, tested me fairly early so that I can start seeing a specialist. So throughout this pregnancy journey, I was working, going to my regular doctor visits, going to my specialist. So I was going to see a doctor at least twice a month, on top of still coming home, dealing with my 1-year-old, and just kind of, you know, rolling with the punches as I kind of prepared. So this pregnancy was the same in terms of no complications, a scheduled induction, which I did get induced. I got induced right at 37 weeks. And the reason I got induced was because, I mean, I'm a rebel and I wasn't totally following the guidelines of my specialist. So yeah, I had to record what I ate, do my sticks, and of course try to eat better. But it was like I just kind of was feeling defeated because every time I tried, my numbers were still high. All the tricks and stuff that kind of worked the first time, I lost track and really just didn't do it. So I was finessing it, and the only reason why I was finessing it was because I felt okay about the diabetes and it not being too harmful, only because we did track my A1C every month. And so during my A1C, I was always borderline. So it was never too high of a number that really caused me to feel like I should be worried. So I was scheduled for induction at 37 weeks. 37 weeks exactly, I went in and I had my induction. So I gave birth on March 16th. So me coming to do this video is kind of just to tell my experience of my birth and delivery story during this pandemic. The COVID-19 precautions, this delivery was very much different than the other. I went in my induction on a Sunday, and I gave birth on a Monday. I was caught up in the pandemic during delivery right at the beginning of like everything shutting down. The first time during delivery, I had about 3-4 people maybe during my delivery, and so they don't limit you on how many people are in the room with you while you deliver. So once we got there, we learned you can have up to 2 people with you during the delivery. However, they have to be in rotation and no one can be in the waiting room. So what happened was I had one person in the delivery room with me, and then if the other person wanted to come in, then they would have to swap out and then basically leave. In postpartum, you can only have one person with you the entire time, and they were given wristbands. So this is how they knew who would be with you during this time. So that was quite different, this delivery. Also during this delivery, I went in with a plan because of my experience from my first time around. During the first time, I did get an epidural. When I went in the first time, they said like, hey, you can get this epidural at any time. During my first delivery, I was able to feel my contractions still even after the epidural. So I knew exactly when to push. I didn't like the feeling. I felt my contractions and they were still kind of mildly intense. But to me, it was very intense because I've never experienced that before. And it was kind of like uncomfortable. And it was a long process the first time because I don't know, maybe I'm used to watching a whole lot of movies, and I was expecting it to kind of be like a get in, get out. Once you start pushing, after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, this baby will be here and that will be it. So of course, that's not at all how it goes. Whenever you start to push, it takes maybe about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before you even deliver this baby. So when I was delivering the first time, I was exhausted for one. I didn't expect it to go that long. I was ready to get it over with. I wanted a C-section in the middle of it because I felt the contractions. I didn't want to feel anything. I just wanted it to be smooth sailing. So this time around, because I already had been through it, I kind of started to create a plan. So my plan going into it was that I would be strategic as to when I was going to get this epidural. I planned on getting my epidural right before it was time for me to break my water, because for me, that was the most intense pain. Once my water broke, it just started coming. It felt like the baby was just knocking everything out of me. And so during that time, I didn't realize the process for an epidural. So the process at this particular hospital, I'm not sure if it's everywhere like this, but what happens is whenever they know that you're going to get an epidural, they have to start an IV on you. I did not know this. And once they start the IV, you have to let the whole entire bag drip. And then you get put on the waiting list for the doctor. So my first pregnancy, it took maybe like an hour for the bag to drip, maybe 45 minutes. 45 minutes to an hour for the bag to drip. So during that whole time, I'm experiencing contractions to the 10th power. And I couldn't take it. I thought I was gonna pass out because they were so intense. And after that, it took a while for the anesthesiologist to come in, because they're not able to put you on the list until after you have completed your drip. I was like fifth, sixth on the list. I did not know the list. So I was, I was in pain. So I said all that to say, this time going around, I did not want to experience that. So my plan was, whenever it was time for them to call the doctor to break my water, my plan for an epidural was to not have the doctor rupture my water until I had received my epidural. This time around, we went exactly with the plan. However, my plan, it didn't work because I felt more this time than I did last time. So when it was time for the doctor to break my water, I already had my epidural. Here's the other thing that happened this time around. This time around, it was kind of like going through the midnight hours when it was time for me to get the epidural, because we knew that once my doctor came on in the morning around 7 o'clock, that was going to be the time for her to rupture my fluids. And so we had to kind of have things in place for when she came on. So the anesthesiologist who was on duty, it took him a while, but of course, I wasn't really feeling too much of anything, so that was fine for me. He come in and, he's kind of like, I guess maybe like drowsy or whatever, but I mean, it's kind of to be expected because, I mean, they're human. It's nighttime and you want to sleep. So he came in or whatever, and it was time for them to sit me up. And I'm kind of at this point feeling anxious again because it's taking them a while. And during this time, they keep trying to reposition me, trying to get me in the best spot so that he can do the epidural. So he goes in, then he tells me like, hey, I can't do this. He was like, do you want me to try again? So I'm like, yeah. Now I do know the complications to getting the epidural, and it kind of affects your spine. So I'm starting to kind of get nervous because the first time around, like I say, my doctor, or the doctor who was at the hospital, they went in, it took maybe about 10 minutes. This time around, it was taking him a while, and then he told me he couldn't get it. I kind of like started to freak out. I'm like, well, what are we going to do? He was like, so you have two options. He was like, you can either let me try to do it again, or you can wait for the next doctor to come on duty. So because I'm anxious and I'm a instant gratification kind of person, so I'm like, no, I want you to try it again. And so I'm just thinking like, I hope he get it, because I know I don't want him poking in my back too much. So I really hope that he gets it. So he goes in again, and then he's just like, I can't do it. He's like, did you have any kind of complications the last time we're getting in? I'm like, no. He's like, for some reason, I just can't get in the spot because it has to go in a certain spot in order for the medication to distribute. When he tells me this time around that he can't get it, I start to freak out because I'm like, well, what if the next doctor can't do it? And so he kind of explained, he was like, well, you may get better luck with the next doctor. We kind of help each other out all the time. One person might not can't get it and the other person can. They have different techniques that different people use. And, being that it's the wee hours of the morning, I'm kind of tired. So I may not be thinking straight. What I may normally think to do, during the beginning of the shift, I'm not able to think right now. So you'll get fresh eyes in the morning. So I'm freaking out. I'm still like, well, what if he can't get it? Because now I'm thinking there's something wrong with me and I can't possibly get the epidural. So then they started talking about some other kind of things that they do. I can't remember what it was called, but I wasn't trying to do that option. I wanted the epidural because I knew that, it would manage my pain for once this water began to break. So the doctor comes in on the next shift. So the doctor explained to me, like, hey, this is the new doctor. I already explained to him that I couldn't get it. I'm confident that he will, because if you got it the first time, you should be able to get it the second time. So I'm like, okay, but if this doesn't work, I have to now explore other options because this is going to be the third time that they have tried to insert this in my spine. So it made me kind of nervous. So the doctor begins to do the epidural, and it's taking them a while. So of course I'm nervous because I'm like, Lord, please, please, I'm praying the whole time, please let this work, because I do not want to have to go through this kind of pain again. And it's also kind of freaking me out because they're like asking like, hey, do you feel it more to the left, more to the right, trying to get an idea as to where it's being placed. And so it wasn't where he needed it to go, and I'm just holding on for dear life because I'm trying not to move. It was a mess, but eventually he ends up getting it. And it took him about maybe 20-25 minutes to kind of get it. So once I got the epidural, I was smooth sailing. So they give you the initial shot of epidural, and then they give you the pen, which allows you to freely medicate whenever you feel a high intensity of pain. So I got the epidural, and maybe about 2 hours later, it was time for my doctor to come on. And so she checked me, and she went ahead and what happened? I believe I had to wait a little bit longer to kind of progress, and she would be back to break my water. So once she came back, checked me again, it was time for me to break the water. And then initially I didn't feel anything. I'm gonna say maybe 2 hours into it, I really started to start to feel pain. And every time I would press my pen, it would distribute the medication, but it's like it wasn't really working. I felt like it wasn't working because, again, like, I'm feeling pain. I feel like I shouldn't be. So the nurse kind of explained, like, hey, the fact that you're not going to feel anything, that's a total myth. Like, it's just supposed to basically subside the intensity of the pain. So my nurse goes on a lunch break, and another, nurse comes on. And during this time, I end up running out of the medication, because after so long, like, you can only get so many shots of the medication within a certain time frame. But I had used it all up, like, within a few hours, because I started to really feel the intensity of the pain. So I had already knew that once the epidural medication was gone, that I can call the nurse, get back on the list, and then they would give a booster. So the booster was them, I guess, reloading it, and the anesthesiologist coming back and giving you, some more of the medication, and then them refilling the pen. So after that, it still didn't ease up the pain. I mean, maybe a little, but not too much. I mean, like, this time, like, it's kind of like I felt the process of my body numbing and it being warm. That's how they indicate that it's working. So if you can kind of like feel your body getting warm, like the lower parts, then that's indication that it's working. So like, maybe in 10-minute, 15-minute intervals, I feel it getting warmer and warmer. So I was feeling hopeful that, okay, once I start to push, then, by that time, I wouldn't be able to feel anything. So it started just kind of like happening. So like I said, the first time around, I was able to feel my contractions. And so I knew when to push. So this time around, it was like the pain was so sharp that I couldn't, like, I mean, I could feel it or whatever. And I knew exactly like when to push again. And like, I felt myself having to make a bowel movement. And once I told them that, then that's when they checked me and they're like, hey, it's time to go. They called the doctor, and the doctor came over rather quickly because I started to make progress pretty rapidly. So the doctor hurry up and came because she was monitoring my progression from across the street, because they have two parts of the hospital. So she was across the street monitoring me, but once I progressed, they went ahead and called her and told her like, hey, it's time for her to start pushing. So I started pushing. I pooped on the table. First time I did not. And so that's essentially how I knew, I was making progress, because every time that I would poop, then, they'll say, oh, it's coming. I can see the head and everything else like that. So it didn't take me as long this time around to push. I could feel everything. I could feel myself spreading. I could feel myself ripping. I felt myself pooping. And I felt the doctor just wiping it. And so that confirmed to me that it was exactly what I thought. I was pooping on the table. And not literally on the table, but with my legs wide open, pooping. And so I just felt everything this time around. And they end up having to use the vacuum suction to help, because when I was pushing, his heart rate started to drop. And so that just kind of sped up the process even more. Like I said, I didn't push as long this time. But when I was pushing this time, I felt everything. And I was trying to give it everything I had, because every time I was pushing, I was pooping. And I really was. And I was just trying to get it over with again. The first time around, I pushed so hard because I didn't, like I said, it was so long of pushing, like an hour and a half. And even then, the doctor was like, hey, you did it rather quickly because, you wanted this thing out of you. And, you pushed quick. And I pushed so bad the last time around that I had hemorrhoids. This time around, I had hemorrhoids, but they wasn't as big. So I don't know if that says anything, but the whole purpose of me telling this story was to say every delivery is different. Although my pregnancies was quite similar, both I had acid reflux, both I did not have morning sickness, I did not have second, third trimester sickness. I was regularly tired with both of them. I worked the same amount of time with both of them up until it was time for me to deliver, because I did not want to cut into my time once it was time for me to return to work. This delivery was quite different, and it was everything that I did not expect it to be, because I had a game plan going into it that I was not going to feel anything, because I was going to have this epidural. So to anyone who maybe is a first time mom about to deliver, I suggest, you just take everything that you know or what you thought you knew from a movie, from the quick tips that they give you. Just take everything out of your head and just kind of be open-minded as to what may happen. And to anybody who going in the second time around, maybe you had a baby 5-10 years ago, so you really don't remember, I suggest you go into it basically as if you don't know anything, because of course you probably don't remember anyway. But just kind of wipe everything out of your head and start fresh, just as if this is your first time around, and kind of create a plan A and a plan B to get your mind kind of working, just in case you have to maybe have a C-section, or maybe if you're not able to get your epidural, or whatever the case may be. That's just my suggestion. Another interruption in my plan this time around was my birth control. So I intended to get my tubes tied while I was delivering. So I kind of had already talked to my doctor. But of course, things took a turn, because although they had guidelines and stuff with the hospital, because it was the COVID disruption, every so often they was changing information. So come to find out, like I planned to get it done or whatever, come to find out that they were not doing any elective surgeries for anybody, because I mean they just didn't have the rooms available, and they just was not allowing people to do any elective surgeries at this time. So I was not able to get a tubal. That's my story. I'm here, back rolling into life. I'll even let me know if y'all want to see more of what it's like having two under two, you know, how life is, things like that. So I plan on shooting a little bit more frequently. I have a new phone, so that allows me to also do a little bit more. So I'm gonna try to be a little bit more prepared tomorrow. Pray for me. So that's it. And if there's anything particularly that you guys will want to see from me, make sure you leave it in the comments, and I'll try to get it to you. And also, I think I may be going through a name change as well, because I don't think I like the name Buku Ari anymore. So I'll keep you guys posted. So stay tuned. I hope to get you guys another video soon. And if you guys want to know anything, or if you guys want to leave me any kind of encouraging tips, leave it in a comment. I'll read it and get back to you. Bye.